Hey everyone. Now, I don't know about you, but with so many different types of hearing protection and different styles and so many different prices, I don't know what's what, and I don't know what style and price best fits my needs. So tell you what, let's figure it out together and go test a whole bunch of headsets. But since I have so many, I'm gonna have to break this up into a two-part series. In these two videos, we'll be looking at a series of active hearing protection headsets from Caldwell, Walker, Peltor, and even Sordin. We'll start out with the most affordable options and work to the higher price range. So let's get to it and go test some headsets. So I don't really want to do a direct comparison of some of these headsets because a few of them can be like apples to oranges. Instead, let's look at each headset, starting with the lowest cost first, and discuss the physical features of each, and then go over the various functions that each headset offers as we increase in price. So then hopefully as a consumer, you then have the information you need to, find that sweet spot so that you can only pay for the features you need and not pay extra for things that you don't need or things you won't ever actually use. Because, and this is gonna sound crazy, just because it's the most expensive does not mean that it's the best for you. Before we get too far, I wanna say thanks to Caldwell and Sordin for providing some of these headsets you'll see us test here today. I'll include a discount code down in the description for all the Caldwell and the Sordin products if you're interested in purchasing any of these headsets. And you want to save a few bucks. There'll also be links down in the description to all of the headsets we'll be showing. So let me start off and show you our full array of headsets we're going to be going over in this series. We'll begin our testing with some Caldwell E-max Pros, and then look at the popular Walker Razor Slims. Then we move into a different style with the Caldwell E-max Power Cords. And then in the second video in this series, we'll continue with the Peltor 300s. Then we jump to the AirPod style Caldwell E-max Shadows. And then we round out the top price range of our list with the Sordin Supreme Pro-X LEDs. So in an effort to add some level of comparison to each, besides looking at basic features, we'll do a series of rankings after we go over each headset and give each headset a score based on price, comfort, noise reduction rating, indoor shooting protection, outdoor shooting protection, expansion and other use cases, like when you're mowing your lawn and your wife asks you if you're done yet. And finally, at the end of all of our testing, I'll go over what I believe to be my recommended usage for each of the headsets we'll be showing. Good grief, I talk a lot. Okay, so I'll keep a score up here as we go through each of the headsets so you can keep track of their ratings. But let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with our most budget-friendly option, our Caldwell E-max Pros. Starting with the physical features, here we see the most basic headset design that is reflected in a lower cost design. The exterior of the headset is made entirely of plastic and comes in a variety of colors to include coyote, teal, and gray. The E-max Pro uses this plastic shroud over the battery tray that houses 3 AAA batteries. You kind of just break this, and if it feels like you broke it, you did it right. The buttons for the power and volume also use plastic buttons over switches. Looking at the ear padding, it's a basic padding with no real frills here. It has padding, so it can say it has padding, but that's really about it. The head strap on the top of the headset is basic and offers a thin strip of light padding. Also on the top, we see the Caldwell logo located on the head strap. On the bottom, there's also a 3.5mm jack if you want to hook into your radios or your phone, if your phone still has these kinds of jacks. The E-max Pro collapses down nicely into a compact shape to store easily. Each Caldwell E-max Pro also has a microphone on the top center of the headset. It's interesting because you don't have like an obvious forward and backwards like you do on most other headsets. But anyway, let's move on to the features and functions of these Caldwell E-max Pros. These headsets don't offer multi-directional sound, so while the headset can amplify sound, it would be challenging to determine where it actually originated from. To turn them on, you just press the center button and the center light turns on. It looks broken. To increase or decrease the volume, you just press the plus and minus buttons placed on the headset. As the headset can go on forwards or backwards, you may have to play with this a bit to make the proper volume adjustment. So let's rate our most wallet-friendly headset. So for our first category of price, up here somewhere, I'm gonna go ahead and give this 5 stars, as it gave us the lowest cost of all of our headset. After a little bit of hunting around, I was able to find these for about $35. For our next category, we look at headset comfort, and these headsets do very poorly, and I give them 1 star. The fold in the actual headset seems to make the entire headset want to just crush my skull, and then the thin amount of padding only makes it worse. This is a head smasher for sure. For our next category of noise reduction rating, I give these a 3 with a 23 decibel noise reduction rating. It's pretty average, it's good, but nothing mind-blowing. So for indoor use, hold up 1 second. Apologies, as I don't have any of the footage that I use for my indoor testing. A lot of the indoor ranges require a lot of coordination, and I mostly shoot outside, and I didn't have the proper amount of time to set up beforehand to get all the proper clearances and all the whatnot to record so I could test these headsets out. So, sorry. For indoor use, I give these a 2. I found that the padding doesn't work well with any eye protection and removes a significant portion of the hearing protection, while it is simultaneously pushing my brain out the top of my head. You could use this for small arms indoors, but I don't recommend it. I think I always use double hearing protection when shooting indoors anyway, so it's not really a headset issue, but the seal itself doesn't do well. All right, moving on to our next category, our outdoor shooting protection, and I again give them a 2. The protection when outdoors seemed barely adequate when shooting rifle or pistol calibers. I definitely found myself still hearing a good portion of the bang. The headsets themselves are so large that they also get in the way if you do any sort of movement or moving around on the range. And with any larger calibers, you need to pay particular attention to that seal over your ears if you're going to use these. All right, so next category. For sound quality, I give these a 1. For some reason, these headsets make it sound like the world's being taken over by our robot overlords. It is a very tinny and unnatural sound. Here's your voice and ambient sound quality from the Caldwell E-max Pros. The headset also cuts off all sounds when it senses any sort of loud noises, instead of just, cutting off the top of it. This makes any sort of conversations out on the range extremely obnoxious. Loud. And then for expansion and other use cases, I give these a 1. I guess I could use them for like mowing the lawn and some other loud noises, but I certainly wouldn't. They're so uncomfortable, I wouldn't seek these out. And the features, along with the barely adequate sound protection, don't make using these worthwhile. So let's go ahead and set these down, and at the end, I'll go over kind of my use cases of who I think may want to use a style of headset like this. But let's go ahead and move on and go on to our Walker Razor Slims. Starting with the physical features of the headset, the exterior is again made of plastic, and the headsets come in absolutely crazy variety of colors and patterns and designs. Here you can see a few in black, flat dark earth, Cryptek, and a ton of others. To access the batteries, you pop up the cover on the opposite side of the volume control. Here you can see the 2 AAA batteries required. To turn them on, it's really easy. You just turn up this knob on the side of the headset. The headsets click on as you turn the knob upward, and it also increases the volume. To decrease the volume, just rotate the knob downward and go further to click them off. It's rocket science, I know, but it's super intuitive and easy to use these headsets. But the padding that's included, this is like padded air. Again, we see no real frills here, just a basic padded headset. On the headset, we see another basic head strap with the same level of padding we had on the Caldwell E-max Pros, and similarly on these Walker Razor Slims, it has the branded logo located on the top. We also see the same 3.5mm jack to connect into whatever setup you may have. These work really well with my Baofeng setup I showed previously that I got from Comm Gear Supply, and they play the audio from the radio even when the headset itself is off and can conserve some batteries. I really like that. The Walker Razor Slims also collapse down into one of the smallest form factors of all of our full-size headsets. Looking at the external microphone, we can see it faces forward on the headset on both sides. This makes it easier to place on your head properly as you have a reference point on what forward's supposed to be, but also remember, these work best when the microphone is facing towards wherever the loud sound is coming from. Again, we see a headset that amplifies sound, but doesn't offer any sort of multi-directional sound. You can easily hear very, very quiet sounds, but it becomes very difficult to identify where they're coming from. So far, this is a pretty intuitive and relatively easy to use headset. So let's get into that scoring. So for the first scoring set of our price, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a 5. I hunted around and I think I found these for about $45. Looking at comfort, I give these headsets 3 stars, as they hug the head without trying to crush your skull and pop your eyes out. I've used these pretty extensively over the past couple of years, and they do get to be a little uncomfortable on your head and your ears after a good bit of time due to the lack of any sort of quality padding. Some noise fighter gel cups would probably be awesome on these, and I've seen a few people on the range do that. For indoor hearing protection, I give these a 3. The Walker Slims work well, but the thin padding doesn't last long without hurting your head and ears. I've used these indoor a lot, and I always recommend using double hearing protection, like using the little foamies that you put in your ear and then put these over top. For pistols, you may be all right, but for rifles, it always seemed like there wasn't adequate protection with just these alone. Double up, be safe. For outdoor use, I give them a 4. The low-profile design keeps them out of the way if you're doing more dynamic movements or transitions in your gear, and the hearing protection is adequate for both pistol and rifle calibers. I never felt like the sound was biting me when shooting anything while I was outdoors. Alright, so next for sound quality, I give these a 3. Now, it doesn't sound like robots are taking over with these, but it does make ambient sounds oddly really loud. The sound just feels a bit off, and the lack of multi-directional sound adds to the overall alien feel when you wear these. Testing the voice sound quality and ambient noise of the Walker Razor Slims. It just gives you an overall disconnected feeling when you listen through these. Anyway though, moving on for expansion and other use cases, I give these a 4. Their simplicity, comfort, compact size, and overall low cost make these a headset I often grab to mow the lawn or work a chainsaw. Since they're not stupid expensive, I don't really worry about ruining them, which then causes me to grab these a whole lot more than any other headset for non-firearm related usage. Let's go ahead and set these down for now, and then I'll go over my recommended usage at the end along with our Caldwell E-max Pros. So let's look at a different design, and we'll be looking at the Caldwell Power Cords. Taking our initial look at the Power Cords, they come in this neat little carrying case. This makes these super portable, as I don't have this clunky headset shape that I'm trying to shove in a bag. Looking more closely at the Caldwell E-max Power Cords, we see that the 2 earpieces are connected together with the main cord. Hence the power cord. The controls for the headset are located nearest the left side of the earpiece. Inside here, you can also see the USB charging port, so then the entire unit can be charged with the included charging cord in the package. It's nice that it doesn't use any batteries, and it all comes together in this nice little carrying kit. The headset earpieces themselves use an interesting improvement on standard foamies. So just pinch it down like you would some foamies, and then insert it into your ear, and then it'll actually expand to form a good seal inside of your ear. The different size earpieces are also included in the pouch, and I recommend you try a few sizes to see what fits best before hitting the range. If this doesn't seal well and you go blast off some shots, well, it'll be a super duper bad day. The last bit on the end of the headset helps to lock the headset into your ear without falling out, and they are nicely identified to show you which side is left and which is right. So these headsets aren't equipped with a 3.5mm jack, so be aware of that if you're planning to use these to connect into your comms, but they do have a Bluetooth where you can connect into your phone so you can still listen to your music. Looking at the functions and operations, everything is controlled with the 3 buttons on the controller. You just press the center button for 3 seconds and the blue light will illuminate to show the headset is turned on. Now, you don't have to connect these up to your phone if you don't want to. I know some of the other ones out there you actually have to have connected to the app. These you don't have to, but if you want to pair them to your phone, you can just hold down that middle button for 5 seconds and it'll flash blue and red, and then you can pair it to your phone. Once the headsets are on, if you then double tap the center button, you can swap them from active and passive hearing protection. So in passive mode, it doesn't pipe in any of the ambient sound around you, and you could have your music be like nice and loud and still be protecting your hearing. And then you could double tap this button here in the center and it goes into the active hearing mode, where then you can hear all the ambient sounds around you, and it drops your music down to a more conversational level, like if you needed to communicate or interact with somebody at the range. There are some tricky things to remember with these, with the single button of 1 press for this, long press for that, and 2 presses for that. Another button would have gone a long way to make these simpler and easy to use for sure. But let's go ahead and go into our scoring, and let's start with our cost. So I give these a 4 for price. The power cords are a bit more expensive than our previous offerings, and I was able to find them for around $75. Moving on to our next category of comfort, as these just sit in your ear and don't have anything extra around your head, these get a 5 for comfort. The Caldwell Power Cords little foamies are so comfortable that they don't bother you over time. I could just wear these all day and just jam out. Okay, so then our next category of the noise reduction rating, I give these a 2. The Caldwell Power Cords drop down a little from our previous offerings with a 22 decibel noise reduction rating. And yeah, that may only be 1 decibel, but these may be things you want to be aware of. And I did notice a difference with these compared to the other headsets. So then let's go into our next category of indoor ear protection, and I give these a 1. I always like to double up indoors, and with this style you'd need to wear hearing protection over these to prevent any serious hearing damage. As extra hearing protection would then render the active hearing useless, these don't work well indoors. I suppose you could just put another set of active hearing protection over these, but then why wouldn't you just use foamies? Anyway, next category, for outdoor range use, I give these a 3. I found both pistol and rifle hearing protection fell a little short in all situations, and I definitely felt a bit of a bite from the sound. It would have definitely been nice to have a bump in the noise reduction rating. Alright, so then how well do they work? So for the active hearing protection, I give these a 3. The sound quality is superb and everything sounds rich and natural, but there is no multi-directional sound, so you can't identify very clearly where a sound is coming from. And the cord itself is a problem. As the microphone is inside the cord, if anything actually touches this, or it drags across your shirt when you move your head, or you just touch it for any random reason, it sounds like the world is exploding. So don't touch the cord and don't move your head. All right. So let's move on to the next category of other use cases. Here the Caldwell Power Cords get a 4. They are simple and easy to use when using loud tools or just being around loud machinery. I can just be jamming out to music with these headsets and then tap the button twice if I need to have a conversation, or if my wife asks me a question of why there are 8 plate carriers sitting in the kitchen. Oh, yeah, those are Joe's. Yeah, he's crazy. No, don't move him. That seems to be what these headsets were designed for, but I will say that even the slightest bit of wind seemed to make them just scream in my ear, so be aware of that also. Alright, so let's go over each of the headsets, and I'll tell you what my recommended use case is for each one of them. For the Caldwell E-Max Pro, these are a great headset for someone who doesn't do a lot of shooting out on the range and limits their range times to short visits of 15 to 30 minutes once or twice a year. These also make an ideal backup for someone that didn't have hearing protection and you need to use some in a pinch. You could also use these if, like, your significant other wanted to come out and shoot with you. she may be angry with you after it crushes her skull off, but her hearing protection would be covered. Moving to my recommended use case for the Walker Razor Slims, these are for those individuals who are just getting started in shooting and are still exploring the sport. These are great if you spend a good bit more time at the range, but still do so in a leisure capacity and limit your range trips to no more than an hour. These guys get some hot spots as time goes on, but if you're not out there for hours and hours, it's just not really an issue. And then for indoors, just get some foamies, and these are an absolutely great starter set. Lastly, for our use case for our Caldwell Power Cords, I highly recommend these for our shooters who do dynamic shooting, primarily outdoors, and shoot mostly pistol calibers. Large caliber rifles seem to overpower the protection of the Caldwell Power Cords. Their long-term comfort and small size make them extremely portable and ideal for use at pistol competitions. And I also recommend these in a non-firearms capacity if, say, you work in an area with large machinery, want to protect your hearing and still listen to some music, but you find yourself in some situations where you need to still have a conversation. You can just click this over and solve those conversations and protect your hearing. So hopefully by seeing this first video in our series, you have a better idea of the features of each of the headset and have a better idea of which one of these headsets fits you best. In the next video in this series, we'll continue our testing with the Caldwell E-max Shadows, Peltor 300s, and our Sordin Supreme Pro-X LEDs. So stay tuned to find out what headset fits you best so you can pay for those features you need and save money on those features that you don't. Again, thanks to Caldwell and Sordin for supplying the headsets for testing in this series. And as I said earlier, I'll put links and discount code down in the description if you're interested in any of these headsets and want to save yourself a few bucks. As always though, thanks to our Patreon supporters, you're the ones that make all of this possible, and I love what this channel is becoming. And thanks all of you that like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below which headset you like and which headset you hate. Alright everyone, wash out. Started, and we'll begin with our most budget-friendly option, the Caldwell E-max Shadows. Nope, that's not what these are.